Because of my kidney cancer, I know my time is limited. Before I go, I want the world to remember the power the Indigenous people portrayed across this nation. I am honored to have spoken at peace conferences with the Mexican government, to have spoken at the National Indigenous Congress in Mexico City, and to have served as commander of the Zapatista Army for National Liberation on behalf of the brave men and women who believe in and fight for equality. No one believed a population of poor and illiterate peasants could organize such a successful militant uprising, but we did, and we succeeded. A frustration that started in the rural lands of Chiapas, traveled to Selva La Condona, spread throughout the country, and grew so strong it came back and reconquered what was so wrongfully taken, shows how powerful the human race can be when we come together and say enough is enough.
We're gathered here to remember Ramona, Comandanta Ramona, and this day we remember her words saying that we gather here today to change, not to change the world, but to create a new one. And that's how Ramona will be remembered.
I can't imagine what it must have felt like having to hear about Comandante Ramona's passing. Could you give us a little insight towards what it was like having to hear about the death of your dear friend, as well as what she meant to the Zapatista cause?
I had not yet been able to recover from the terrible news that her death meant to me. I remember we were in the auditorium del Frente Civil of Tonetolco when one of my comrades called me aside and informed me that she had died that morning, January 6, 2006. Before the joy and enthusiasm of the comrade, I had not yet been able to recover from the terrible news that her death meant to me. I remember we were in the auditorium del Frente Civil of Tonetolco when one of my comrades called me aside and informed me that she had died that morning, January 6 of 2006. Before the joy and the enthusiasm of the comrades who were present in the auditorium, I found it very difficult to be the spokesman of her death. In order to give myself and my colleagues strength, I remember saying to them, in my work as a spokesperson for the ESLN, there are very hard times like this. I will tell you right now. I have just been told that Comrade Ramona, Commander Ramona, died right now. I have just been told that. Then I said that Mexico had lost one of the most extraordinary women, one of those women who gave birth to new worlds, especially those that word comfort me a lot. But then I got a lump in my throat and I almost started to cry. All I could say to those present was that we were going to interrupt the work of the ECLN for 3 days until her funeral was over.
And what exactly does the Zapatista cause stand for?
We, the ECLN, an indigenous armed organization, declare war on the Mexican government. We declare work, land, housing, food, health, education, independence, liberty, democracy, justice, and peace.
Can you tell me about the current economic situation in Chiapas?
We are an indigenous and armed organization, as you said, based in Chiapas, Mexico. Chiapas, according to the Mexican Institute of Statistics and Geographical Information in the 2010 census, has 1.1 million indigenous people, representing 27.2% of the state's total population. Chiapas is one of the wealthiest states in Mexico in natural resources. Yet as a state, we are ranked as the second most marginalized state in the country. According to International Service for Peace, Half of Chiapas's indigenous population reports no income at all, and another 42% makes less than $5 a day. Throughout Mexican history, Chiapas's indigenous people have been excluded from the governmental decision-making process, as well as from enjoying basic human rights and services such as education and health care. This oppression was exacerbated by the enactment of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which was viewed as a threat to indigenous interest. We consider this governmental betrayal by opening opportunities for U.S. and Canadian big agrarian businesses to buy or rent our land. The indigenous agricultural workers were worried that the international competition would wipe them out of their local markets.
I'm now with Major Anna Maria. You took the city of San Cristobal. Why would a woman want to be a combatant for the EZLN?
Let me tell you a little bit about our lives as women in southern Mexico in the state of Chiapas. I am Sotomaya, like Comandante Ramona. Our lives for generations have been waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to cook and prepare the food for the day that we don't get to eat first. Our husbands sit down to eat and we get what's left. We are starving. Oftentimes our husbands don't have enough to eat. We're hungry and we have to wait as women. We follow our husbands into work. They ride their horses to the crops. We follow them walking, carrying our children, breastfeeding our children. We work, we cut, we cultivate, and we walk home only to cook and prepare more food if we have it and do laundry. It's a long, long day, all night working. And also, as the military started coming in, starting in the 1980s, violence against women starts to increase. We can see that with the military, there's definitely a correlation with violence in the household, either from military assaulting women or also from their husbands trying to regain a sense of control. So women don't have a very good life in Chiapas. Taking up arms against the bad government and against corporate capitalism gives us a chance to have a better life and to create what Ramona envisioned as a better world.
Could you give me an example of how the Mexican military's presence increased violence in the area?
Yes, in the town of Chinalo, there were people who did not support the government party that was in power, the PRI, and there was another group called the Red Mask, the Rojas Mascaras, that chased them from Chinalo into Acteal, and they ended up killing 45 men, women, and children. They even killed pregnant women, slicing their stomachs open and ripping the fetus from their bellies, throwing the fetus and saying, "Kill the seed." What kind of people do that? This is what we're fighting against.
From a woman in poverty selling artisan crafts on the streets of Chiapas to a woman whose voice was heard throughout the world, the Zapatista movement to me means opportunity and hope. The opportunity to escape poverty and abuse, and the hope for a better future for indigenous people, but more importantly, women. We did not gather to change the world, but to create a new one.